Carrie. I am a marketing manager here at Glassdoor, and I will be moderating today's webinar, Messaging Your Employer Brand in an Authentic Way to Attract Awesome Talent. Just a couple webinar tips. Next slide.
Sorry, Shay, it's not working for me.
Oh, no problem, Kate. Just click.
There we go.
Perfect. All right, just a couple webinar tips, you guys. If you can, please go ahead and dial in through your telephone or through mic and speakers. Also, you'll be muted just to avoid some background noise. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to go ahead and type them in the Q&A pane, and we will get to those at the very end of the session. And now I would like to introduce our featured speakers. We have Kate Pope, a manager of talent acquisition, coming to us from Achievers, and our very own Kelly McGuire Payne, director of client success from Glassdoor. And now I'm just going to go ahead and briefly walk you through the agenda. So to kick things off, Kate's going to discuss transparency in your employer brand, getting your employees on board to build this authentic brand, and then just really talk about the steps to ensuring transparency and authenticity and walk through some of the details of the Achiever story and how they built the brand they have today. We're going to wrap up with how to leverage internal and external sources, and Kelly from Glassdoor is going to let us know how to get started with a Glassdoor program called OpenCompany, and then we will end with questions. So now I would like to go ahead and pass things on over to you, Kate.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for taking your time out of your busy days today to listen to essentially my ideas and the background stories of our Achievers business and our approach to employer brand. As Shay said, I manage the recruitment team at Achievers. It's been an interesting ride understanding our employer brand, and I think something that will always be continuous. So I'll absolutely walk through this presentation and happy to connect with anybody offline if they have any additional questions. Just a quick note when it comes down to your power of employer branding, I wanted everybody to just really quickly get aligned. This is naturally meant to be denoted as your reputation as a business, as a company, in which employees or candidates can be employed through, right? So your employer brand is really around how you're viewed and perceived inside the marketplace to candidates. So, I love to start off webinars and even just presentations as a whole and really kind of dig down into some stats. It's great to benchmark as organizations against some pure statistics. ERE actually did a survey back in 2013 of 4,700 talent acquisition decision makers. There was a 50% cost reduction or savings essentially for those businesses that had a strong employer brand. So, I don't know about the rest of you listening in, but for me, if I was able to go to my CFO and say, hey, guess what, if I just improve my employer brand, I can actually save our business 50% on a recruitment cost. It's a huge number. It obviously speaks very loudly as to why it's so important and how it directly impacts our ability to attract and retain top talent. I'm sure this is not something that's new to everybody that's listening in, but it's not really about creating a Facebook page or adding photos any longer to your career site, right? It's a deeper message now. It's critical that your employees are promoting their brand, and it's not just coming internally from your recruitment team, and that they're promoting it where today's job seekers are spending the majority of their time. In this whole entire presentation, if you take anything away, I don't know, I'm hoping that it resonates with you the way it resonates with me, but if you don't manage your employer brand, then someone else is going to write the story for you. When I read that statement, I literally felt kind of rocked to the core. My overall business, what I do, why I'm employed, is to ensure that we hire great people inside of an organization. And when you realize that somebody else could take a hold of that very easily for yourself and potentially put out a message there that isn't what you want to have broadcast, it really is something that resonated strongly with me. your employees are already on sites like Glassdoor, right, which is obviously why we're here, and they're writing what they think about what it feels like to work at your organization. The candidates that come through your business and experience what you've offered, they too have an access to a variety of different social media tools to write about what they've experienced. And essentially where this message ties in is that they can be the ones that are now promoting your brand more so than what you are doing. The way people find jobs in Research Company naturally has changed. So today, candidates want to know everything about your organization before they even begin to apply for the job. More and more what's being sought after is transparency and authenticity, and that resonates very quickly within their search, not necessarily even within their interview process. Candidates want to know as much as possible about an organization. They literally can turn and Google your business in seconds, get tons of articles, responses, write-ups, and understand who you are as an organization before you've even had a chance to speak to them directly. Naturally,
hey, we're getting a couple of chats in the chat box. If you could try to just kind of speak up a little bit. It sounds like some people are having issues with the audio.
Oh, okay, my apologies. Okay, let's see if that changes at all.
Perfect, thank you.
No worries. So my point would be more around the fact that we live in a very communication-rich world, a time where people, whether or not they're candidates, no matter what they're looking to understand more, or gain more information on, are able to grab information and communicate at any time with any medium in any way. So realizing that as an employer and trying to use that to your advantage when it comes down to seeking, the best candidates that you can possibly get for your organization. Okay, so some things that we know about today's candidates. So first and foremost, 41% of new employees have buyer's remorse. 50%, that's half of the people that you've brought inside of your organization have buyer's remorse. 88% are looking to leave within the first 6 months. So that statistic alone, considering how much time and effort we put into finding these top candidates, to hear that potentially 50% of them that you put in all this time for, have brought into your organization, are now at a stage where they're actually looking to leave within their first 6 months. It's a terrifying statistic. The main reason why they're exploring other opportunities is because during the hiring process, it was failed in some way, shape, or form for them to have received an accurate picture of the job and or the business. So that's a key thing that we need to take away from today. As a result, today's candidates are looking for more than just the employer's perspective. Career site, job description, recruiter conversations, all of those things, but they need to resonate with a little bit more deeper information. They're seeking out that information from new channels that didn't exist even 5 years ago, and actually putting more trust in those channels than they are in previous kind of traditional recruiting methods. Today's candidates are no different. 95% of reviews from those on the inside are influential, right? When a candidate goes to look whether or not they want to work at your organization, they genuinely take the review, whether that's through email, on a social site, or in person, from a current employee to heart, as they should. And a company's reputation has more of an impact than you might expect. So this is obviously one of the reasons why employee referrals is an absolute key driver into how you're going to obtain top talent, which it obviously can be a whole separate webinar, but this is obviously a really key takeaway as well. And finally, 69% of today's candidates would actually not take a job with a company that had a bad reputation, even if they were unemployed, which I found to be really interesting. 84% would consider leaving their current job for another role at a company that had an excellent reputation, even if that was meant to be a lateral move. So they're not necessarily looking for career advancement. An organization that has a strong brand, strong culture, strong connectivity within it is something that they would rather be a part of than necessarily go after career growth. So what does this mean? A company's employer brand reputation directly impacts their ability to attract and retain top talent. It's critical that employers are promoting their brand and that they're using their employees to do so, where today's job seekers are actually looking for it. So first and foremost, conveying your employment brand starts with your very own people. That means that we strive to highlight the true experiences of our organizations and the people that are experiencing it day to day. When I started to personally, as part of my job, I wanted to understand our employer brand a little bit better. I realized that, I could spend time in meetings with executives and our kind of brand and demand, our marketing team, and understanding how they wanted it to be shared. Or I could actually spend time with some of our employees and realize essentially why are they staying. What is it for them that we offer as an organization that they want to be a part of continuously? I want to touch really quickly on brand authenticity, and I think that the image right now on the slide represents a very holistic picture and can give you a strong idea as to where your brand sits within your business, between your ideals, your values, your strengths, but naturally within the kind of talent, passion, and experience realms. In doing some of my research, I actually read a quote that said, "Brands fail because they're devoid of authenticity." So originality, genuine, legitimate, real, that in theory is a definition of authentic. However, in branding terms, authentic and its synonyms are all buzzwords. Essentially, they're what marketers use to sell. So what authenticity relates to in terms of branding is a very simple concept. Brands essentially are no longer the property of the businesses that they represent. They are the property of the consumer, or in the case of recruitment and talent acquisition, they're the property of the candidates, and they are the property of the employees who live it and market it essentially for you every day. So through Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Glassdoor, TripAdvisor, Yelp, consumers have a gluttonous accessibility to brands. Therefore, the only way to be authentic is to be malleable and to shape your brand around your customers, around those that you are seeking to invite or generate interest in, around what they want and what they need. So, and just, a really simple side story, and this is somewhat off track, but I think it's relevant, is that when I actually graduated from university, I helped a friend open up a restaurant, and he hired a business manager that made a statement to me that when I was 22, still rings true to this day, and is something that I try to keep in mind no matter what role I hold and what kind of approach I take to anyone in theory. And he said to me that if a customer comes in and has a bad experience with your business, they're going to tell 10 people. And one customer who has an amazing experience will tell maximum 2. So you really want to make sure that not only are you driving out your brand, but that you're staying true to it internally and making sure that those that experience it really experience it in a positive way. So employees exert up to 4 times more discretionary effort when they believe in the value of their job, their team that they're a part of, and their organization that they're contributing to. Knowing this statement for me was really the driving force when it came down to our message and how we recruited. At the end of the day, at Achievers, we wanted people who are passionate about their jobs and the impact their jobs had on our mission as an organization. We're not really an organization at this time that can pay the 95th percentile, and we don't cover your tuition to go and get your master's, and we don't provide unlimited vacation. So it was really around what do we offer as an organization that's going to elicit excitement to the kind of candidates that we're looking to bring on board. People want to work with other awesome people, and we needed to show them what parts of us were awesome in the same way that they could have interest in. It's important to note here that although, I think we're awesome, and obviously I'm biased, we're only awesome to certain people, and at the end of the day, that's okay. Not everybody has to love us. Those that we want to have work for us, we really want them to see, why we connect to them and what they're looking for. So with that in mind, I'll jump into the Achiever story really quickly. Ta-da! This is our Glassdoor page. Really, really, really exciting, this refresh, and I can talk about that a little bit later. Achievers, just in case anybody isn't aware of who we are and what we do, we're a 12-year-old business from actually Toronto, Canada. Our headquarters now is out of San Francisco. We've gone through 3 rounds of financing. Our most recent Series C was with Sequoia Capital. A few taps on the back, but we've received the most funding a company in our space has seen, and we're growing rapidly across North America. Really cool and exciting. We've just made our first few hires in Europe, and hoping to continue to grow our business there. As an organization, our software delivers, an only true cloud-based employee success platform. So we're an HR cell. We have a powerful way of for new companies to engage, align, and recognize employees, enabling remarkable business success. So for us, kind of the underlying pieces outside of this offer and what our organization is all about, culture is essentially infectious in our organization. We pride ourselves on eating our own dog food, so our culture is around recognition, communication, alignment. We run very fast, and we celebrate as quickly and as often as possible. I would say that in one word, when it comes down to hiring, we look for passion. We want you to be passionate about your impact, about your job, and then obviously around our business. When it comes to our brand, I would say that we've had one in place. It just wasn't something that was overly defined, and essentially it was something that was transparent in the sense that we were a fast-growing business, tech, and some things were great and some things needed to be fixed, and we're constantly outgrowing ourselves and all that goodness. But potentially it wasn't authentic in the same way, so that was part of our journey. So, a few key things. It did seem like we were rocking and rolling pretty well, though. When I joined the organization, we had a great culture. Our employees loved it. They talked about it. We were getting referrals left, right, and center. We were using, and still are, a method of interviewing called Top Grades. If you haven't had a chance to look this up, I recommend it. It's by G.H. Smart, and Jeff Smart would run this out. It's a really great interviewing tool if you're trying to find the right person to assess within your organization, how your business moves, culture fits, etc. We offered a flexible work environment, first aid dress code, all kind of very casual, fun-loving. We had our career set up and running. So there's some good content on there. Didn't seem to be having any issues. And then last but not least, we had an ATS in place from a recruitment perspective to make sure we were tracking and providing metrics, in every opportunity. So essentially everything was in the way you'd want it to be. But there were some things that, we were feeling pain with. The first and foremost, we were hiring in San Francisco with really no brand at all. So a few years back, we had opened up this business, and we were really no different than any other tech startup in the Bay Area. You want to be able to call into a candidate and say, hey, candidate, guess what? We offer, lunches, and we're backed by Sequoia, and we have flexible work time, and, oh, guess what? We have unlimited drinks. But at the end of the day, for them, they would say, so what? So does the company I'm working for currently. So for us, we needed to flex and switch our messaging and really sell our own passion, our culture, and in theory, then our product. The next step was we needed to start to reach remote hires. We began to hire remote sales and account managers across the U.S. They needed to identify very, very, very quickly with our brand from a remote office. They had to feel connected to us as an employer. And the only way for us to do that was to provide them with the exact same experience that they thought they were going to have from the get-go. Everything needed to be exactly what they were expecting. They needed to connect us. They needed to be excited, and we needed to make sure that that happened. And additionally, we were growing up. Our average age was 30. We were trying to add more senior, experienced professionals to our business, but at the same time, we had to find those individuals who had that experience, who were ready to buy into our culture and what it was and what we offered. They needed to understand as well and experience that in a very authentic way. They essentially would have to come on board and be a part of building it and experiencing it every day as well. So the quick fixes that we needed to make at the moment in time. First and foremost, we went through alignment. So what were recruiters and hiring managers saying in their interviews? Was that consistent on what we were then advertising, right? So there's so many moments in time where a candidate communicates with your business, whether they're reading or researching or whether they're actually interacting with an individual. Were those points all lining up? We had to be certain about who we hired, and I think, again, everybody could tell you what it was that we were looking for. They had that feeling, but could they actually distill it down to some characteristics that a candidate would need to have to be successful in our organization? We ran out then hiring manager training very specifically and have spent time with individual departments really trying to drive this home, and we still keep that training refreshed and up to date and running out on a constant basis. Our company site needed to have more information about our locations, what it felt like to work in those offices, what our departments were all about. You know, we have fun names for different departments. What does that mean? What does that how does that matter to you as a candidate in your job search? We spent some time rewording our job postings to make sure that they accurately describe our culture, that they actually described what it felt like to work within the culture of the department, because obviously our company culture and the culture of the department would be a little different. And we wanted to ensure our postings spoke about our business, but at the end of the day, what it felt like to be at our organization. And lastly, we needed to make sure we were getting a stronger presence on the social side. We were using JobBite and using that through our employee base, so they were quite social with their job postings, but we didn't really have much of a social branding piece. So we did launch a social recruiting strategy more aggressively to speak about culture, our business, our space, and our product. We're naturally trying to make sure that we stay relevant. And we've decided actually to use the JobBite Engage product for us, which is essentially a CRM tool. And we're getting more social with how we're marketing and branding ourselves. That's a new initiative for us in the past 6 months, but definitely something we're starting to use more frequently. So I'm going to walk you through the steps to ensure a transparent brand within your organization. Step one is to list out what makes you different from the competition and highlight those attributes. So it dawned on me that it really wasn't about telling people who you want to hire, right? We want to hire so-and-so. It's really about who do we have and how do we get more of them. Those that you have that are driving your business, who are building your culture, who are promoting your business, and who are engaged and passionate, for us about achievers, who are they? Because we want more of them, and they are our brand. They're the ones that are carrying that message. They're the ones that are building our culture. That, to us, was the authentic brand. That was really about who we were, and just saying, these are the people that we hired. This is what's great about us. And if this is what you are like as well, then we'd love to have you on board. Obviously, we had our hiring manager training to ensure the front lines were consistent with our message. We also ensured that recruiters were fully aware of what that meant, what that picture was, and additionally, on some of the characteristics that we found were important, they have screening questions to bring into their phone interviews to just kind of double check that the candidate has what they're looking for. And then we did spend a lot of time on the onboarding process to make sure that we uncovered, why people decided to work for us. It's really important to check in with them and see if what they found in the interview process and in their research is actually ringing true when they joined the business. It was really about no gimmicks, no sales tricks. We wanted to find the people that we liked, have them resonate with our brand, because it's who they are, and they would then start with us and feel no pain because everything met their expectations, and they're really just excited about ramping and adding value to the business and to their professional careers. So we're hearing it everywhere. Recruiting and marketing are becoming one and the same. I think it's so interesting because at one point in time, recruitment was HR. And then recruitment was sales. And now recruitment is becoming a marketer. Before you know, recruiters will be developers and more and more and more things as they continue to kind of grow and evolve the way in which we hire and bring in top talent. But as a recruiter, you have to be able to market your strengths and message the talent that you're trying to reach. We at Achievers tweaked our messaging, but we also evolved our mediums. It's important to think social, as we hear all day long, but we wanted to ensure that the content we were pumping out was something that would resonate with who we wish to hire. So step two, figure out who you want to hire, what attributes are most important to those groups. So, for an example, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about millennials, or the lovely Gen Ys that we need to hear, or that we do hear a lot about every day. It's important to do your homework on this kind of changing employee and how they're coming into businesses so that you understand what matters most to them. Just some background studies show that almost half of the workforce will be made up of millennials by the year 2020, and they will make up over 75% of the workforce by just 2025. Millennials are an abbreviation for, obviously, millennial and generation. It's a term that was put together as a segment of the population after kind of 1990 to 2000. They've come from a generation of transparency, from rating their college professors to receiving their grades instantly online. This is an audience unused to having to look hard for information they want or that they need. They also care more about culture fit, growth potential, work-life balance than they do compensation. This audience is more entrepreneurial than ever before, and they want to feel that their work is making a difference in the overall growth of the company. So we specifically thought about our business at Achievers. We're a high-growth tech company. We did 138 hires in the year, 37 permanent and 20 interns in the most recent quarter for us. I thought about characteristics of successful people in our businesses, narrowed that down to 5, and then educated the business on them. They're not our values. They're not our role-specific characteristics. It's not about being a developer versus somebody in sales. They are to be successful at Achievers. What kind of characteristics do you need to embody? So step 3, listen and fix any existing problems. Sites like Glassdoor can really help you uncover any common trends. I can't stress that enough. Another great avenue is exit interviews and internal surveys. We found that career opportunities for us was a bit of an issue that we needed to understand a little bit more around. And that we actually found that some of the roles that they were getting information on seemed a bit confusing. So we had to get to the bottom of it. And for ourselves, we were able to do that through our own surveys and actually launch then a program against it to make sure that that was something that was then either eradicated and that we could then obviously make sure that from a brand perspective that that was something that we could communicate outwards. If you're losing candidates and losing talent, you need to evaluate why and respond to it and fix the problem immediately. Waiting and seeing if it kind of goes away is really not going to be the right approach. Additionally, you want to read what others are saying about you. So this might sound daunting, but Glassdoor has word clouds. This is actually something I present to the business and others' insights to make this a lot easier for you. But you need to fully understand all the pros of working for your great company and all the cons, right? No place is perfect. I know that we have a variety of different, bumps in the road at our organization. That's just part of being here. But there's so much goodness, so you should never really be discouraged. I'm going to touch a little bit on step 4, which is around saying thank you, and that recognition really works. And this is more of a retention side of things for your employees. But when it comes down to your brand, it carries itself out very well if you are spending a lot of time recognizing your employees for the hard work that they put in. 83% of organizations actually suffer from a deficit in recognition. This is actually a study that was done by Burson and Associates. Companies with recognition programs are highly effective at improving employee engagement and see 31% lower voluntary turnover than their peers with an ineffective recognition program. So it really does impact the bottom line. And then saying thank you for reviews and feedback can go a long way. Your employees want to feel that they're continuing to contribute to the overall growth and success of your company. So I'm not sure, well, actually, I'm sure most people on the call have actually heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you flip this around and put it more into an employee's needs, this is what we would look at. This is a pretty straightforward chart, but once you've met a candidate's basic needs, enough money for them to live on, a safe environment, extra money isn't really what makes a difference. It's more about moving up the pyramid to satisfy their higher needs. So we're becoming a culture in which people expect to be rewarded for, taking up space or, essentially, which makes the job of HR professionals or business leaders when they're tasked with employee retention a difficult one. So if many of your employees expect routine and social praise, and badges on good work that they do, how can you recognize extraordinary achievement? In many organizations, recognition and financial rewards are joined at the hip. An employee does something above and beyond and receives a gift card or a lunch with their boss. A team achieves a goal and is rewarded with a party. These rewards, however, can backfire. They tell the employee that he or she is worth a certain amount of dollars to the organization for some level of effort. In my opinion, this approach misses the point of recognition. People are motivated by more than money. People crave positive feedback, recognition that they put in when they put in extra effort, acknowledgement of leaders and peers. That glow that comes from knowing an achievement has been seen, appreciated, and celebrated. But it's also realistic as it looks at ways leaders can recruit and truly nurture current and future talent. Financial reward is a great thing, don't get me wrong, but it's not the equivalent of recognition. Let's not kid ourselves. It's a short-term solution. Neither is consistent praise for average work. Recognition is a key tool in employee retention programs for a reason. People need more than constructive feedback and positive affirmation. They need recognition for extra effort. So for us at Achievers, we do spend a lot of time promoting a recognition program as part of recruitment. It's part of what we train employees on when they join the business, but it's really also about helping us spread that employer brand. Okay, step 5. So, a very important piece is that once you've got it, flaunt it and make sure you get social. The really important part of this message is that you need to propagate the message on sites like Glassdoor. Sites like Glassdoor, Facebook, Twitter, consumers have a gluttonous accessibility to brands. Therefore, the only way to be authentic is to be malleable and to shape your business around what your customers' wants and needs are. Be sure to include authentic reviews on your career site. So specifically for us, we actually link the Glassdoor link on our career site so that people can come experience us and provide feedback. They can also go research us and actually click on the button and understand more about what our employees are saying. We also make sure that we comment on all of the reviews that come up. So there'll be certain reviews that will be positive and fantastic, and there'll be reviews that maybe aren't as positive. But we do want to make sure that we provide an understanding or a deeper story behind potentially what they're highlighting so that we can paint a broader picture for those that are reading them and trying to understand the context behind them. When it comes down to joining the conversation, it's crucial that you're part of writing the story about your employer brand. So yes, your employees are going to carry it out for you, but a really big piece of that is obviously to make sure that you and your recruitment team are a part of that. 94% of candidates are interested in what the employer has to say and what makes you a great place to work. So yes, your employees are going to carry it out. They are the people that are social and online and speaking about where they're working. But it's also as important to really talk as an employer voice and make sure that you get a chance to voice who you're looking for and what you offer. Okay. So I feel like I have a really interesting story when it comes down to Glassdoor. You really can't get more transparent than the use of their lovely site. I was actually completely against it at first. If a candidate decides to apply or not, interview or not with a company because of what they read on a few reviews, to me that kind of meant, really are you the right person for our business? You haven't talked to anybody. You haven't spent any time understanding who we are. So I wasn't really fussed about it. We actually really didn't even spend that much time 6 months ago, or maybe a year ago, inside of our free site, like without even paying any money or involving ourselves in any sort of account with Glassdoor. Our CRO joined the business and was taking existing sales team that we had from 10 to like 27 in 6 months. He had aggressive hiring goals, and he had an enterprise sales rep with tons of experience, a true rock star in his role, turn us down due to a few reviews that he saw on Glassdoor. So naturally, the CRO called me, and obviously that was a pleasure to get that call. So I kind of had to step back and stop being so stubborn and really realize what Glassdoor could offer us, and really understand truly just what exactly I walk through in this presentation as to why it's so important to make sure that you have mediums for people to express their experience and your employer brand. So I, still went into my agreement with Glassdoor as skeptical as I had been before. I signed up solely for a 6-month trial and really wanted to understand what their impact would be. So we spruced up our information. We got recent photos. We posted all of our rules with them. And we made 2 hires in just under 5 months, which for any of you that tracks that kind of record, that's huge. We've barely been using it appropriately, and then all of a sudden made this huge splash, and we're receiving such fantastic candidates. And last but not least, I'm now actually speaking at a webinar through them, which I think says a lot. The nice thing, well, not the nice thing, one of the many nice things is that it allows you to track your engagement. So how many candidates know you exist? Where does your reputation stand compared to your competitors? What is your social media reach? How influential is your employer brand? Analytics are so important in determining whether or not your employer brand is resonating. Learn from what people are saying about you. See how they're reviewing you versus your competitors. Really helps you understand the picture. We share actually these stats that we get from Glassdoor on a quarterly basis to our business. So that shared around, doesn't matter what level of employee you are, it is not just recruitment that owns our brand. They need to see how we're trending as well. We also measure our unique visitors who come to our career site from all of our various mediums, so LinkedIn, Google+, Instagram, Glassdoor. We provide unique links as well to all of our social media pushes for specific jobs to track how they did. We really want to know when we put something out there, how is it resonating? Was there a lot of people that drew interest? It really helps us as well with our pipelining groups. So as a result, we've had quite some really great things that have changed, and as well at the same time, just some small subtle tweaks that we've noticed some impact with. Recruiters and managers have had some great alignment. It really has been one of the things that we've been focusing on. We obviously still have to remind ourselves of just kind of getting back to that basic, but the effort that we've made is a great foundation to work off of. Candidates assimilate to the business a lot faster. And I wouldn't attribute this solely to brand, but it's just one of those things when it comes down to alignment and your brand is messaging the right things that we notice in our 30 and 60, 90-day onboarding check-ins with employees that they were felt the exact same experience. They hit their expectation bang on, and they really just had to come in and focus on delivering and learning their job versus not feeling the alignment they were hoping for. Our employee referral rates have stayed the same, if not getting higher. We've got a great program, so we really didn't want to see a dip in that when we made any changes, so that was great news. We've made some amazing hires remotely, and we've actually upped our average age to 34, so can you believe that? We've had some candidates on the phones with the recruiters actually reference the Glassdoor site as the reason why they're on the phone with one of our recruiters. So that says a lot as well. Whether or not we brought them on board, the fact that that's being spoken about is really exciting for us. So what's next for Achievers? The big focus for us is going to be naturally in recruiting millennials. We really can't avoid these guys, and we need to ensure that we're offering them what they need and promote the programs that we have, obviously to bring them on board and to help them grow. A big piece for us as well is localization. We've made our first hire in Europe, but how do we grow the EMEA team and ensure that they're just an extension of our culture? A big focus of that is really around who we hire. We have to be very consistent to who those are and who our brand is. We need to ensure that not only do we continue to hire the right people, but to attract the achievers we want in EMEA, we need to ensure our authentic brand speaks in a relevant way to all countries in Europe that we're looking to grow into. So that's a huge kind of focus for us strategically. We need to obviously do an audit. Brand isn't something that you set and forget. So we change our recruitment process often. We add new perks. We get a new office. We have a cool new event or something to talk about. So we need to audit what we currently have and innovate upon it, right? In the last phases, we need to go mobile. Our company site, oddly enough, is just going through a stage now where it's, all of our careers postings and such are mobile enabled. So that's something that's a huge point of concern as we need growth forward that we make sure that that's the case. I love that fish. So brands are consistently evolving. What does evolution look like for us? After all, our brand is exactly that. It's a constant evolution. Your business changes. It impacts your brand and your focus. So growth and scaling for us is a huge part of, it's a huge part of any high-tech growth organization. We need to ensure our office spaces, our technology, our business rhythms scale as we continue to grow in that size. When it comes down to our brand, we first and foremost need to not lose sight of who it is that we hire. So culture is going to grow and evolve, which is a good thing. We can't lose sight of who we hire because they're the ones that actually build our culture. It comes from the people. It's authentic. It's transparent. It builds itself. with the right individuals who come on board. If we hold tight to who we hire and we continue to take our authentic brand and brand it into the market, we should scale just fine. And now I'm going to pass things over to Kelly to wrap up and talk a little bit more about OpenCompany.
Thank you, Kate, and hi, everybody. So I'm going to wrap up here with about 5 to 10 minutes of just some high-level information about Glassdoor, our transparency methodology, and why employers, just like everybody on the line, needs to get involved. So I don't know if, I know Kate had mentioned this briefly, but the way that candidates and job seekers are doing research and looking for the right jobs is different. And they're doing their research and investigating and looking at companies, and some of the metrics that you're looking at now are some facts that lead to some of the actions that Glassdoor has taken to help employers with transparency. So 51% of candidates have buyer's remorse. And that's because they didn't get an accurate picture of the job. 95% of job seekers are influenced by reviews. And 69%, almost 70%, wouldn't take a job with a company with a bad reputation. And that's why, putting part of your story out there for job seekers who have changed their behavior and are doing these things is essential now more than ever. Kate, you can move to the next slide. Wonderful, thank you. So here are some best practices that Glassdoor feels are 7 main ways to be more transparent. Transparency really does imply openness, communication, and accountability. Job seekers want to know what they may be signing up for before applying for a job. If they can't find out what they want to know about your company, they either may not apply for that job and you're missing out on that qualified candidate, or you're missing out, just entirely on capturing that part of your story of that market. And it's really about being open to feedback, sharing openly with employees and candidates the strengths and weaknesses of your company, and most importantly, just engaging in the public eye. This is happening whether you are or are not being part of the story, so make sure you're doing your part to tell that side of your organization. So here are some ways that companies like you can be more transparent. Developing your employer brand message and giving employees a voice. Showing them that this Glassdoor company profile is out there and encouraging them to write reviews about their personal experiences working with your organization. Enabling social sharing and sharing frequently, making sure that your message is out there because social is such a big part of recruiting nowadays. Being responsive, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can do that with our new product, OpenCompany, and pointing people to third-party endorsements like Glassdoor. I know Kate mentioned this as well, but going mobile is very essential nowadays. Many job seekers and lots of Glassdoor traffic is mobile. So making sure that your jobs are out there, your message is out there, and candidates can find the right mobile way to apply. And Kate, you can move to the next slide. So what is OpenCompany? Simply put, it's a program to recognize organizations that embrace transparency. With today's candidates doing more research, providing accurate and transparent views of what it's like to work at an organization is more important than it ever has been. And we wanted to create a program that recognized companies that embraced these ideals. Next slide, Kate. So there's 5 steps towards transparency with our OpenCompany platform. The first one, Kate, I think if you click through, little icons will pop up on this slide to give everybody a nice visual as well. Thank you so much. So the first step is to just update the current information in your company profile on Glassdoor. Sometimes your industry or founding, some of that can be out of date. So make sure that that's all current and up to date when you're logging in and looking at what job seekers and current and past employees are saying about your brand. Second is adding photos. One of the main places that job seekers go when they're looking at a company profile is those photos. Visuals and accurate depictions of what it's like to work at that company, whether it's a cool cafeteria or the views from your office. It's really, really important for job seekers to get an understanding of where that office or that headquarters is located. Third step is getting reviews. Encouraging your employees to join the conversation and leave reviews. Implement policies that after an employee starts their new position,
leave feedback as to how their first experience was at your company. Fourth is responding to those said reviews. This is something we've recently been encouraging employers to do. Most importantly, to future job seekers who are looking at those positions and looking at those reviews. While we all know that negative reviews are always frustrating as an employer, commenting on those, and we've seen a lot of CEOs taking that initiative and leading by example, and commenting on those shows future job seekers that the executive leadership and everybody at your employer and organization really care about job seekers' experience and current employees working at your organization. And finally, it's promoting your profile. Adding a social icon to your website, your career page, even your signature when you're sending emails frequently. Encouraging people to check out that OpenCompany, that transparent profile that you're promoting within Glassdoor. Next slide, Kate. So I just wanted to bring it back full circle and just show everybody that Achievers is a full OpenCompany. You can see here on the screen that the OpenCompany little notification there is visual to any job seeker or anybody that comes and looks at this company profile. They've completed those 5 key steps to becoming an OpenCompany, and it just shows job seekers and any other employers and potentially direct competitors of Achievers that Achievers is leading the way for their space and being transparent as possible for future job seekers. Next slide, Kate. So I wanted to also talk a little bit about some of the reporting and analytic capabilities that we also provide for our clients. You're able to see true insights as to who's coming to your profile and who you're potentially losing candidates to. The pie charts that you're viewing currently demonstrate some of the demographics of the candidates that are researching your company. It helps you recognize that maybe you need more millennials or more females in your tech space. And it gives you actionable items based on our Glassdoor data and directly based on what job seekers are looking on your profile. And in the bottom left-hand corner, you can also find out different companies that you are potentially losing candidates to. These companies are the top 5 profiles that job seekers are researching after they also research you. To the middle and right there, also similar demographics and metrics, top job titles and top locations, just so that you can see, are the candidates that you're looking to target the right candidates that are coming to your profile. Next slide, Kate. So because of things like OpenCompany, because of the transparency that we're providing, and because of just our Glassdoor's talent solutions and full suite of products, these are some of the measurable results that we're seeing for over 2,000 clients today. First and foremost, it's 2 times better applicant quality than traditional job boards. And the reason being is we're providing not only those jobs, but a platform for job seekers to research the good and the bad, the pros and the cons of both working. So after they've done that research, they're making more better informed decisions about where to apply, and therefore they're more qualified often for your position. 30% lower cost per hire we've seen at Glassdoor than other recruitment channels, and one of the main drivers of that is because we have 3 times more influence over candidate decisions because of the way our platform and products are created. So what does this mean for everybody? And Kate, you can move to the next slide, and I believe this is the last slide as well. What this means is candidates demand transparency. We wanted to really just leave you with a few closing remarks about that. Candidates, because they demand transparency, if they don't feel that they're seeing a transparent view of the company, you're potentially losing out on that candidate. And the demand will only grow. This trend is not going to stop. So we want real inside looks, and job seekers want that, so you want to capitalize on that here. And just in closing, don't hide from that transparency. Embracing it will really help you win here, and showcasing who you really are and what your company is about will really just show job seekers that you care about all of the good and the bad, and you're working to improve some of the bad every day. So I believe that's it, and I know Shay's our moderator here. I'm not sure if we have any questions, but I wanted to open the floor for that.
All right, thanks you guys. Thanks Kelly and Kate for some great info. We do have a couple questions here. The first one is for Kelly. Do you have to be a Glassdoor paying customer to become an OpenCompany?
It's a great question, and thank you to whoever asked it. The answer is no. And the reason being is that we wanted OpenCompany to be an option for all employers out there. to have some of the options and some of the wonderful features that our clients do have to express yourself and be transparent. We allow you to kind of dip your toes into Glassdoor's products by using this platform that we're offering to all employers. So I encourage everybody that's on the line, client or not, to go onto your profile and make sure that you're taking those 5 steps. And if you have any questions or unsure where to look, go reach out to your account manager or client success manager, and they'll help steer you in the right direction.
Awesome. Okay, this next one is for you, Kate. What would you say is the first thing I should do after this webinar to start my, say, journey to making sure that I become an authentic and transparent brand?
Great question. My recommendation would be to spend some time with your employees, long-standing, tons of tenure, and brand new. If your brand isn't being represented and isn't being something that they thought they were going to experience, that's the first area of focus. It's not about getting flashy. It's about genuinely understanding what they experienced and was it what they thought they were going to get, and further to that, those that have been here for a while, why are they still there? That would be my absolute first recommendation, and then you'd be surprised at things you can build off of just from having that insight.
Awesome. And then here's another question for you, Kate. Is your company currently responding to reviews? And if so, who at your company is doing that, such as what position?
That's a great question. Yes, absolutely, we are responding. It depends. We have an account for people that make a response. The people that are, depending on what the response is, in all fairness, it goes to a variety of different individuals. So if it has to do, with something to do with kind of the employee experience, we review that inside of what we call employee success or HR. We've had some people make comments or questions specifically around kind of leadership. And that stuff gets brought up to the executives to draw a response. So it does take on a variety of different levels, but it is one account from a response perspective, if that makes sense. And they're kind of our employee success rep who kind of writes up the various different versions and make sure it gets out to Glassdoor.
Awesome. And then you guys, just so you know, I'm seeing a couple questions in here. You will receive, as soon as the session concludes a little later this afternoon, you will receive a follow-up email containing these slides and recorded version of the webinar. And we're going to go ahead and wrap up just a couple minutes early. So feel free, if you have any questions, we'll hang in here for a couple more minutes. Feel free to go ahead and just type them in, and we can respond individually at after the session concludes. And also, I would really encourage everyone, in case you have any questions, I see in here about, specifically how to respond to reviews, or if there's any resources that we have, absolutely. On the Glassdoor Employers website, we do have an entire tab labeled resources that ask you kind of how about asking for reviews and how exactly you should be responding to them, and a ton of that type of information. So I really encourage you to go ahead and check that out as soon as this is over. But for now, I would like to wrap things up and just give a big round of applause and thank you to Kelly and Kate. Great content, great info on here. Again, if you have any remaining questions, feel free to put those in the Q&A pane, and we will follow up as soon as the session is over. Thanks again, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.